Nice to see you. Welcome to the FiveStack. That is Zev Shalev. I do this stuff mostly anytime. It doesn't really matter. I'm a professional. I can do it. From narrative.org is where you can find him on his Substack. DeanBlundell.substack.com is where you can find me. And we're excited to be with you today. We've got a lot going on. Pete Hegseth's in big shit. Pete Hegseth, that drunk Fox weekend anchor turned Secretary of Defense for the United States of America. Hello, Heather from Jersey. Nice to see you. Stopped all the weapons going into Ukraine. Donald Trump said he didn't know. And now we have really one question. Who the fuck is running America? We'll get to that today. Also, the Senate is prepping historic 500% Russia sanctions. The vote is actually going to happen, believe it or not, in Trump's America. I thought this would never happen. FBI is criminally investigating former CIA Director Brennan and Comey. Because guess what, kids? It's Trump Distraction Day, National Trump Epstein File Distraction Day. We're going to get to that and talk about it with you as well. And we've got more Canadians trapped by ICE in detention centers. Is a big story coming out of Canada. And we'll also get to the Epstein Files cover-up that is not just enraging Trump's base, it is splitting MAGA in half. And not only is it splitting MAGA in half, it's going nowhere. Thanks to you, my friends. Are we alarm-free yet, Zev, or are we still in alarm hell?
We're still mid-alarm. No doubt Mohammed will come back on and tell us in a minute that there's construction work. I bet it's too annoying to leave on. So,
I don't know. I think it's kind of like it's like background music. It's like having a soundtrack for a Substack Live. And you know what? Nothing could be more appropriate than an alarm as we're talking about these fucking five fucking stories. Well, hi, Vernon, British Columbia. We've already been asked to not make people laugh too much today. Listen, we have some funny shit in these stories too. Like there are some side roads we're going to take in talking about the five subjects that we're going to take today, including some of the most egregiously stupid shit to ever come out. And just an honorable mention story. It should set everything up. As you know, it is National Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump Files Distraction Day. We're going to get to a couple of the investigations. We'll get to a little bit of Joe Biden as executive privilege has been waived for his doctor because they're looking to talk to Joe Biden's doctor. How old is he really? We need to know.
I just turned it off.
Okay, there you go.
My ears are somewhat spared.
But something happened today. Honorable mention before we get to the FiveStack.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget, you can become a paid or free subscriber no matter where you are. Narrative.org, DeanBlundell.substack.com. But I need to read something to you. This is a letter that was sent to Canada today. The ambassador of Canada, Kristen Hillman, the Canadian ambassador of the United States. This is one of the Trump distractions. This is how out of fucking gas they are. I just want to remind everybody, we got a letter, Canada, an esteemed letter from Trump regime proxies.
Wait, are you inserting a story into the countdown right now?
It's a six stack right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me get at it.
Wow, all right, yeah. The weather.
This letter was sent to the Canadian ambassador trying to force the Canadian government, Canadian Natural Resources, and the Canadian forest people, the people that cover all the forests. I can't remember the name of it. It doesn't matter. To stop all the smoke coming from Canada's boreal forests from entering the United
That smoke is annoying.
Into the United
do
States
something about it?
Because, quote, it's going to ruin America's summer. Let me read this to you, Dear Ambassador Hillman. We write to you today on behalf of our constituents who have to deal with suffocating Canadian wildfire smoke filling the air to begin the summer. It's not happening, by the way. As we're entering the height of the fire season, we would like to know how your government plans on mitigating wildfire and the smoke that makes its way to us. As I'm sure you know, this is not the first year Canadian wildfire smoke has been an issue. In 2023, Canada had its worst year for wildfires on record. Last year's first season was considered one of the worst, and this year seems pretty bad too.
At least they're paying attention.
Why we throw a key driver of this issue has been, and this is where it gets, this is Tom Tiffany and Brad Finstad. These are two MAGA freak evangelical climate denying loyalists of Donald Trump. Tom Tiffany. Yeah, that's his name. Sweet name. Yeah. He says, while we know a key driver of forest fires has been a lack of your active forest management, We've also believed things like arson is another way where multiple large fires have ignited in Canada.
Wow.
With all the technology we have at our disposal, both preventing wildfires, this is a worrisome trend that needs to be reversed. Our constituents have been limited. This is no word of a lie. Have been limited in their ability to go outside and safely breathe the air due to
What
dangerous
nonsense.
air quality and wildfire smoke is created. In our neck of the woods, summer months are the best time of the year to spend time outdoors. I got it.
Fire
I got
alarm.
it. Yeah, there you go.
Turns out.
This is a fire alarm. He said, in our neck of the woods, this is fucking hilarious to me. Summer months are the best time of the year to spend time outdoors, recreating. Enjoying time
we recreate.
We recreate. Enjoying time with family and creating new memories. We're destroying Americans' memories, especially the new ones they haven't had a chance.
Those Canadians. The stuff Canadians do to Americans all the time. It's too much, you know? Now you've gone and it's destroyed their memories. It's unfathomable that you do this to us.
You're welcome. I need to read you the last part in total. In our neck of the woods, summer months I can't stop laughing. Summer months are the best time of the year to spend time outdoors, recreating, enjoying time with family, and creating new memories. But this wildfire smoke makes it difficult to do all those things, guys.
It does.
Not done.
It is fun, but there you go.
This is the last sentence, the last paragraph. Canada has been a friendly neighbor of the United States. We represent. So the significance of this issue, we urge you to relay this message to your government, in particular, the Natural Resources Canada and Canadian Forest Service. Thank you for your time and consideration. We look forward to your response. I talked to someone in Carney's orbit, the government, and they're like, we haven't even seen that. It's just fucking hilarious. So,
I mean, it is hilarious. Which districts of these fine representatives of the Republican Party? Which do they represent?
I think one's from Wisconsin and the other one's from like Idaho or something like that. I don't know. Who gives a shit? Does it really matter?
The weather flows, you know. There have been bad wildfires. They have.
And listen, the Lower Fraser Valley, Vancouver, every year is covered in smoke from Washington State, Oregon, California. Same thing with Southern Alberta. We have 8,000 wildfires. Just a quick aside. We have 8,000 wildfires a year. Maybe 5% are arson, maybe 5%. The remainder, climate change, lightning strikes. Canada is warming twice as fast because of the United States and because of the CO2 they are pumping into the atmosphere and because of a lack of regulations. All of our forest fires, which are a tenth of the ones that happen in the United States, which are 50% man-made, by the way, United States.
Yeah.
All of them are in boreal regions, which are uninhabited. Like it is like Canada. If you understand anything about Canada's vast boreal forestry, the Canadian Shield, 80% of this fucking country no one's ever set foot on because it's that big and it's that dense. So speaking of dense, these two maggots can go pound salt there. That is the dumbest shit I've ever read in my life.
Do you remember the last time a Trump official tried to tell people how to manage their fires when in California they had those big wildfires and Donald Trump went to visit and he said, "Oh yeah, it's just about sweeping the underbrush or something like that."
Yeah.
And then
you got to vacuum the floor.
You got
to vacuum the floor of the forest. These are Trump loyalists who truly believe that Canada is not doing enough to vacuum the boreal forest.
And then the last time they had a fire, this massive fire, remember in California in December, Trump thought, well, we'll just release the water, or maybe he said he'll just release the water from the north, and
we got a big tap up here apparently. Yeah.
And apparently, that was a bad idea because it means that they couldn't actually have enough water to farm for the rest of the year. So
that's right.
So I wouldn't trust the GOP on much, but certainly not on managing fires. It's not their.
Well, also keep in mind this is like Canada. MAGA and the Trump regime threatening Canada to clean up the forest floors with rakes and vacuums today.
Yeah,
because they can't enjoy a barbecue and they can't go ATVing and shoot each other with BB guns in Wisconsin. Might be one of the greatest, weakest, funniest distractions on Epstein file distraction day.
Yes, it is a big day for that. And speaking of the distractions, in the number 5 position on our story countdown today,
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has unilaterally halted the critical weapons shipment to Ukraine without informing the White House or Trump. You remember the story from yesterday during that press conference. The shipment included Patriot interceptors and missile systems already loaded on trucks in Poland when the freeze was ordered by Hegseth. When asked who ordered the pause, Trump responded with visible frustration, "I don't know. Why don't you tell me?" And the truth is, he didn't know about this important policy decision, or maybe at least this is the spin they're putting out there today. But it seems that the SecDef went rogue, as it were, and decided to stop all these defensive weapons from getting to the very important and needed hands of the Ukrainian allies that we have fighting in Ukraine. And now that's been reversed. Patriots are on their way, but this is an embarrassing Secretary of Defense.
No way. No, you don't say. Again, I go back to this well all the time, Zev. Anytime we have a Pete Hegseth as a useless fuck sighting.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that a former Weekend piss drunk, philandering, abusive Fox News anchor is fucking up the Secretary of Defense position. I can't believe it. It is just, it's beyond my imagination. Listen, and here's the other thing. Yeah.
You don't think highly of Fox News anchors, do you? And Weekend Fox News anchors?
No, I don't like any of them except for Jessica Tarlov. Big Jessica Tarlov guy.
Okay.
Yeah, she brings some good heat. I like her. Brian Kilmeade, if I saw him in the street, I'd probably dummy him. So, as well as most other Fox anchors. But listen, Pete Hegseth did stop Ukraine from being able to defend themselves. People died. Mm-hmm. If you think Pete Hegseth did that in a vacuum,
no,
without asking dear leader, oh, here we go, another 4-alarm blaze. Let me just kind of go off for a second while you're muting your fire alarm in your building. If you think Pete Hegseth acted in a vacuum, if you think Pete Hegseth went rogue, if you're going to believe Fox News, CNN, and every other news outlet, it's like, we're pretty sure Pete Hegseth went rogue. Pete Hegseth has never gone rogue around Donald Trump. I don't know if you watched that cabinet meeting yesterday where Trump's cognitive climb was in full like it was just a spectacle, which, by the way, you can go and read about. I've detailed everything. There's so many experts that are like, he is done. This isn't a cognitive decline, it's collapse. He's finished. But to the Pete Hegseth side of the story, he sat there looking scared, like petrified. Yeah. He is Donald Trump's dog. They all are. And he's got them all on leashes. So if you believe for a second these news reports that Pete Hegseth, former drunk Fox News anchor, Weekend news anchor, by the way, I need to put that in there all the time.
Yeah.
Because if you know anything about broadcasting, if you worked on weekends, you were like a bit player who's like, yeah, wait, fuck, we can get $1 million.
Hey, I did some time as a weekend reporter and anchor. I used to do that. You know?
Okay, yeah, so did I. Never. Yeah. But anyway, so anyway, my point is this: is that Pete Hegseth stopped those arms shipments into Ukraine at the behest of Donald Trump, and they got caught. And Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump does every time he gets caught doing something treasonous, seditious, or illegal, or hurting another country, or killing other people by proxy by doing something really fucking stupid. He blames someone else. And before he blames someone else, he claims he has no fucking idea what anybody's talking about. Like none. It is, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know. I haven't heard that. I'll have to ask this guy. And then someone else takes the blame for it. And in this case, it's Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth did not stop those shipments unilaterally in a vacuum on his own.
No.
It was his boss. Let's all just get on side with that right now.
Well, which boss? I mean, there's a couple of numbers that I call when I really need information, when I'm just like, I'm a little lost about where we're at in a particular story. I don't know if you use these contacts, and I called one of them yesterday. I was like, what the hell? It seems so weird. And this person tells me that, Hegseth is really a Putinite. He belongs to Putin. In fact, that's what Putin won in the whole establishment of the Trump administration, is they got to have the Pentagon. And so it could be that Trump didn't know, and that I'm not saying Hegseth came up with the stuff on his own, but maybe he came up with stuff as it was relayed to him via the good people of the Kremlin. Who
Oh, really?
gave
You
him
think that
yeah.
Trump isn't the only Putin asset? You think Hegseth's a Putin asset?
I think Putin is also
Putin
a
can go
Hegseth.
right to Hegseth and go
Yeah,
all the way around Trump? That's the
yeah.
arrangement? Really?
I think so, which explains why their procurement guy who's in there, I can't remember his name, he's got a weird name, is also questionably a Putin guy, and he's deciding on what gets bought and what doesn't get bought. So if that is in fact the case, and the Kremlin has a direct line to the Secretary of Defense, then I can actually see it happening, where they're like, hey, Pete, you just pause those things for a few days and allow us to launch our biggest assault, which they did yesterday, 728 rockets. I mean, sorry,
drones and missiles.
Drones, yeah. Yesterday, this does seem that could be a plausible thing, because Trump, as you point out, looks really out of it. I mean, he does not look like he's keeping track of any developments. And for him, in a press conference in front of the world's media, to say, I don't know, like shrug your shoulders when you're the leader of the free world and you can't even answer a question like that, that makes me think maybe he wasn't aware. But either way, Hegseth made a crazy decision, and where they took the order from Putin, or took the order from Trump, it is unconscionable that he keeps this job. He has to go. He's no longer acting in the national interest of America or the national security interest of America. He's acting directly opposed to it. I mean, it's like, if you don't get, this is about as treasonous as you can get when you're helping the enemy in a war that, that's on the other side of you. We're not meant to be helping them, and we're helping them. And this is what Pete Hegseth is doing. And considering he has not exactly had a stellar record as the Secretary of Defense, I mean, he's got a difficult time in the last few months. These signal chats and he's leaks and his family members.
Yeah,
and he's
war plans to his wife.
being fired, and sending war operations across Signal. All these things. I mean, these are not good things for a Secretary of Defense in the first 6 months. So maybe it's time to go for Pete Hegseth.
I think that is on the offing, but I think it's more of a performative firing. It will be more of a performative firing than anything else, because this is what Trump does. I mean, you go from denial to then someone else accepting blame for dear leader, and then someone gets fired. That person was incredible, and then that person, after they get fired, is garbage, and the absolute terrible decision. They went nuts. At first they were great, and then I don't know what happened. They went crazy. It'll be a repeat of the Elon thing, the John Kelly thing, the Jeff Sessions thing, the Reince Priebus thing, the Sean Spicer thing. It is rinse, fucking repeat. And so whether or not, and you know what, that's an interesting little caveat that's an interesting little side note that you just added in there, is that, a while ago, if you remember, Pete Hegseth got caught having a Russian email address to a Russian lobby firm.
That's right.
If you remember that. Yeah.
That's right.
So if you don't, that's definitely a possibility as we kind of put these pieces together. But in the end, in the end, we're looking at a travesty where hundreds of people in Ukraine, hundreds of Ukrainians were killed or injured over the past couple of weeks. That Poland had those weapons. They were in Poland waiting to be staged to go into Ukraine. And they when they removed them, they didn't just slow play them. They didn't just say, hey, we're not going to release them. They removed them. And word is that they sent that load of weaponry over to Israel. So, in the big scheme of things, the shame here is that it caused immense suffering, human death. It really put the people of Ukraine at risk in that bizarre dementia-laden press conference yesterday. Trump, he kind of, I don't know what's going on with him, other than nobody knows, other than dementia and decline. But he said he thinks he's he's like, Putin's not listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He said, I got to help the people of Ukraine. And he finally kind of admitted that he thinks he's being played in in Trumplandia world, thinks he's being played by Putin.
Yeah, he said Putin was full of bullshit. Actually, that's his exact word. Look, I mean, it's interesting as well, by the way, you point out about that Hegseth. Wasn't his phone, was it the same thing that he had his phone numbers in two Russian spies, phone contact?
No, that's a different terrible thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's got a lot of Russian connections, says Pete Hegseth.
Sure does.
That's Secretary of Defense. Look, I mean, it's really interesting if this does affect their relationship. There's no doubt in my mind that Putin and Trump are linked at the hip, that, he's not going to get away from Putin. But there is now, and this is a number 4th story, a real possibility that the U.S. Senate is going to vote on that sweeping Russian sanctions package. Now, it's the most serious sanctions package since the Ukraine war began, with over 80 bipartisan co-sponsors backing the Sanctioning of Russia Act of 2025. The bill would impose 500% tariffs on any country buying Russian energy products, including oil, gas, and uranium, directly targeting major purchasers like China and India. Trump has signaled he's very strongly considering supporting the legislation, which could reshape global energy markets and give the U.S. unprecedented leverage of a nation still funding Putin's war machine like India and China. Now, up until yesterday, this was not really going to happen. Now, John Thune and Lindsey Graham are saying this is actually going to come up for a vote before the August
And
recess.
MAGA Mike Johnson, dude, he came out and he was like, "Yeah, I think we should
saying,
do it."
well, they've got a similar thing that they're trying to pass in the House, and you know, if the Senate passes it, the House will pass it because there's overwhelming support for Ukrainians amongst the Democrats and Republicans in the House. So 80 senators are pushing now for this bill to get passed, which makes the real possibility that Trump might actually support it. I mean, it would be stunning for him to do something like this. If you wanted a test of whether he and Putin's relationship was straining in reality and was not just theatrical, well, this would be it. If this bill passes, we will know that there really is a chance that the Trump administration can actually operate independently of Putin, because if it does pass, it's going to cause huge hardship to Putin's economy.
You know, part of me, listen, if we take this on face value, which I don't think you can with anything in the Trump admin or in MAGA, if we take this on face value, wow, right?
Yeah.
You've got Hakeem Jeffries agreeing with MAGA Mike Johnson. You got Lindsey Graham agreeing with Chuck Schumer. You've got all these people who are on polar opposite ends of the ideological spectrum, political spectrum, fighting each other, trying to kill each other, trying to turn America into a fascist state, going, maybe we should do something. I wonder, much like Donald Trump really kind of played his own administration and everybody around him over the Epstein files. Almost like, you know, he was ginning up his base, using it, but he was playing a different game with the Epstein files. And then all of a sudden it comes back to haunt him, where his own DOJ, everybody that he put in charge, whether it was Bondi Patel or Bongino, collapsed under the weight of who was attached to that Epstein file. Jake Tapper went off on it yesterday. Finally, I was like, finally, someone in mainstream media is going, yeah, Donald. I know he's an idiot. I know, but at least it was on mainstream media. I'm like, okay, fuck. Finally, someone's talking about it. You can't find it anywhere else, not even on Fox News. But it kind of all backfired. Like, he was using it and playing both sides like a mob boss. Do you know what I mean? And then he ran out of runway, and now it's nuclear. It's the number one story in the world. It is holding MAGA hostage. It is crushing Donald Trump. It is a stink that, like, I've never seen on Teflon Don he can't get away from. I wonder if he's playing both sides with these sanctions. Like, part of me wonders if Donald Trump is purely a Russian asset, not interested in the business of the world. And he's playing Vlad's game, and he's got all of his GOP now agreeing to sanction 500% anybody that does any business with Russia, Russia's war machine, and really crippling sanctions with this bipartisan group of Democrats that are getting together saying it's time. And I wonder if they're putting him under the gun, and if he's now going, fuck. Now what do I do? I've played both sides for so long, beholden to Vladimir Putin, if indeed he is the Manchurian candidate. He appears to be. And he's been promising Putin, yeah, I got you. I'm going to remove those weapons. No sanctions on you. No sanctions on. He's helping Iran sell fucking oil to China. He didn't sanction Russia once. He threatened to sanction Ukraine. And I wonder if the heat is so intense now that he's going to be forced to do something and to back down. Taco Trump strikes again.
Or back down from imposing the sanctions, or back down from. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to back down. I think there are too many people around him at this point that have figured out his gamut, that he's always continually playing on both sides of the fence for his own goals. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to take that out of his hands at some point. I really do. But if he can't pass, this will be the end of the war for Putin, these sanctions and the economy. It would be the end of Putin. So it would mean, It's pretty severe if he did something like this, if he
But
signed
did
the
you not look at
sanctions.
him in that press conference, Trump in that press conference, and go,
He's caught in
he
a
looks
really bad place. And he's got Putin on the one hand with real compromise that may make Epstein's compromise look like child's play.
Yeah, forget the P tape. I mean, the
yeah.
P tape won't even make the news.
Yeah. So
according to
there's
what
so
he's
much, they can bring him down very, very quickly. It's not like now maybe they're trying to. Maybe this is exactly what's happening with Epstein.
And I think that's
maybe,
what he's trying to head off at the pass with all this, like, quit talking about Epstein. It's like, why are we still talking about that? And it's like,
Yeah.
I might, because he vacillates, right? Anytime he's got a big decision to make, he's like, we'll see. 2 weeks, we'll see. And what did he say about the sanctions? We'll look at it. We'll see. We'll see.
Right. And so
he's trying to fucking just give himself time and space, but for what? And I think it's because he's played both sides of the fence for so long. Now he's in that box, like he's in the Epstein file box where he's like a cat on a fucking hot tin roof.
Right.
And I think that these Russian sanctions might do the same. You're watching the beginning of the end. You're watching the beginning of the end. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And I think that's the right analysis. I don't think he's going to go through with these sanctions unless, he's absolutely collapsing at the end of no support, and unless some GOP senators walk in there and say, it's this or you're done, which may happen. It certainly was not what, if you remember Nixon, it looked a little something like that. But I don't see him passing these sanctions if everything is okay with him and Putin. There's just no ways it's going to happen. But you're right about the leverage. And Musk floated the Epstein stuff as leverage. He's saying to Trump, I've got this stuff. I'm going to release it unless you chill out or whatever, or support Putin in this case. And this could be the opposite response to that, is leverage. And we'll see where it lands up. Hopefully the Ukrainian people don't land up as collateral in the middle of all of that.
Yeah.
In number 3 it's also related to Russia. Former CIA director John Brennan is under criminal investigation by the FBI for potential wrongdoing related to the Trump-Russia probe. God, they can't give it up. Focusing on allegations that he made false statements to Congress, the investigation centers on whether Brennan lied under oath about his role in including the discredited Steele dossier in the 2017 intelligence community assessment, with newly declassified records suggesting he advocated for its inclusion, despite testifying he opposed it. The probe was initiated by Trump's CIA director, John Ratcliffe. Referred evidence of possible misconduct now to Kash Patel, the FBI director. Such a charming group of people, with sources indicating the investigation could examine whether Brennan's actions constitute a conspiracy. Well, I don't know. What do you think?
Bullshit.
Yeah, of course.
It's National Jeffrey Epstein Files Distraction Day.
Yeah.
Bullshit. It's a lot. It happened the night after a disastrous press conference where a cognitively collapsing Donald Trump looked worse than he's ever looked as guilty as fuck, stammered, didn't know what he was talking about. Everybody's talking about the Epstein files. So what does he do? We've launched investigations into James Comey and John Brennan. John Brennan and James Comey are two of the most upstanding civil servants in the United States of America's history.
Well, certainly,
I just want to.
Comey, I will quibble with, but not for this reason.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a service to your country. You can have an issue with the ideology. These are guys that served under multiple administrations in unbiased ways, protecting the United States of America from threats, foreign and domestic. Donald Trump has never done any of those things. In fact, he's opening the fucking door wide open. So when you think about anything to do, whether it's the Canadian forest fire letter, or you think about the investigation of James Comey and John Brennan, it is revenge theater. It is convenient timing, and it is all pure and unadulterated bullshit. Like every other investigation he has launched into guys like Miles Taylor or Alex Vindman or anybody that sullied his fucking reputation that he earned himself, anybody who had any part in his impeachment, anybody that had any part in the Russia dossier or the Comey leaks or the Mueller investigation, anybody associated with January 6th, everything he does is always about distracting you and trying to paint people that have goods on Donald Trump being a sycophantic, fascist, felon, rapist, con man, criminal. And that's what this is.
That is true. I just can't believe how Trump cannot get over this. He mentioned this yesterday at his press conference, right? He was still going on about the Russia hoax, which is not a hoax. Everyone knows it's not a hoax. You'd have to be like blind and deaf and in a hole to think that it's not a hoax, that it's a hoax because it is so verifiable in so many ways that Russia helped elect Donald Trump in 2016 and in 2024. But he's so determined to swipe the slate clean of this thing. He's so obsessive about the fact that he's so obviously guilty of this thing that he's going after some of these, really incredibly talented people. I'm talking about specifically about Brennan Comey. There's a lot I could talk to you about Comey. I don't think his role in 2016 is fully understood, and I think he actually helped Trump, and he fell for an operation about Clinton's emails that was kind of obvious now. But that aside, Brennan, on the other hand, was in charge of the CIA as this massive attack was happening on America, as Russia and Israel and China and all these other countries were piling on, Saudi Arabia were piling on into attacking American democracy. And Brennan, as the CIA director, can you imagine what that job must have felt like in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks before that election? Seeing all the activity around you, knowing what is happening, that your country is under intelligence attack on absolutely every front. And he did a remarkable job in those last moments, and so did Obama, in providing the guardrails that's made us survive the first Trump administration. They did a lot of really smart maneuvering to defend America heading into that Trump election victory. And it's just appalling, because this man is clearly a hero, clearly a man who's given so many years of service to America and who's been an upstanding director of the CIA and held many other roles. It's just appalling that this guy's being investigated by the FBI. By Kash Patel?
Yeah.
I mean,
Kash Patel, podcaster.
Yeah. Conspiracy theorists,
Kash Patel, a podcast, two dumb fucking MAGA podcasters that promoted that grifted, that made millions off of the idea that the Epstein list was coming out, and James Comey and John Brennan prevented it from coming out, and the deep state, they're part of the deep state. Now they're going after him. Now they're investigating him for deep state ties and trying to frame Donald Trump. Fox News put out a wonderful piece for Donald today with just pure lies and propaganda about how they tried to frame Donald Trump as being a Russian asset. It's full court press. I mean, this is just pure bullshit. It was 2-3 weeks ago, James Comey arranged some seashells in the sand that said 8647. Yeah. And Donald Trump and Kash Patel are like, that's a threat to assassinate the president. You need to be investigated. They launched an investigation. Didn't go anywhere. This will go nowhere. This is bullshit. Forget about it.
I don't know if this one was to go nowhere, because I think they're quite determined to do it. It's been floating around for a while. I mean, is there a case? I doubt it, but they'll try investigate, and they'll put Brennan under a lot of pressure for a while, and it's unnecessary. The thing is, you've got the Epstein files sitting on your desk, so why aren't you investigating that? It's already there. There are so many things inside the Epstein files that I could point you to that would be really useful for investigation, including a decades-long relationship with the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And you're not investigating that, but you're going to investigate whether Brennan inserted the Steele dossier into the intelligence report by the Senate committee. I mean, which, by the way, is the most authoritative document they have about what happened.
The Steele dossier has been 100% correct.
It's not the Steele dossier; it's the Senate report of the intelligence group in the Senate.
Also 100% correct.
Is the authoritative, it's like the Bible on what happened in 2016. I'm there all the time checking it out. So if he lobbied for it, and if everyone in that committee thought it was a good idea to include the Steele dossier, it was a really good idea, because it was, as you point out, quite correct, then that's not a crime. That's not a conspiracy. That's just the President of the United States getting his nose out of joint because he doesn't like to be associated with, being a Manchurian candidate, which he clearly is. We should move into the number 2 story, because
he's trying to wash facts.
Yeah.
That's all history. It is. Yeah.
And the number 2 story is, because we're not going to avoid it today, the Epstein files. So the Justice Department is now officially saying they're not releasing anything else on Epstein. So the official word from them is there's no client list, that he didn't commit suicide. Check out the tapes, even though they're missing a minute here and a minute there. And, we're not even sure what they're showing us, because they just tapes of a door. We're not clear that.
By the way, new research has uncovered the fact that is not the door to Epstein's cell. That's a different door, apparently.
I think it's not the door. And of course, anyone who knows any sort of building permits and rights things, there's not always just one exit to any place. There's always two exits because that's what regulations are. When you build anything, you need two exits to most places. So I have a lot of issue with this because, as you know, this Friday I'm doing this rebroadcast of the secret files of the secret life of Jeffrey Epstein. And I've been watching those tapes again and reviewing all the evidence. It is astonishing to me how close Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were, down to the same banking institutions. This banking with the same Deutsche Bank private wealth group at the same time, especially in the years 2013 to 2016. But also having this long history related to Bear Stearns, going back all the way to almost the 80s, but certainly during the 2000s. It's long known that Bear Stearns hired Jeffrey Epstein, but at some point they let him go because he was committed some sort of, crime, internal crime, not a real crime, some sort of penalty-driven thing. He was doing something wrong inside the company, and they let him go. But he stayed working for them. He built all these offshore companies that were secretly being funded by Bear Stearns. And all the way through, Donald Trump had a very close relationship with the guy who ran Bear Stearns, the chief guy, Al Greenberg. So there is financial symmetry between these two gentlemen that goes back many, many years. And it would be incredibly surprising to me if we could get access to what they really were funding, if there was no interaction financially between these two, because they are so close to each other in terms of who they banked with, the amount of time they spent together socially, the amount of time they spent together just doing events, from Victoria's Secrets to these various Miss USA teen events. They were just around each other a lot and socializing together a lot. And it's also interesting to me that, Robert Maxwell knew Donald Trump. They were seen, they were friends. Donald Trump was invited to a yacht party with Robert Maxwell. And, and when Ghislaine and Jeffrey moved to the United States, it's not surprising that they became friends with Donald Trump because he was a friend of the family. So, the fact that turned out to be a close friendship isn't surprising, but that it goes back also a couple of generations, one generation back into Maxwell's storied history as a spy. The whole thing stinks. I mean, it's just like there's a lot here that you can say that these two were, I don't have any evidence they're business partners, but they were best of friends for sure.
How many women have credibly accused Donald Trump, who is an adjudicated rapist, by the way?
Yeah.
How many women have credibly accused him of sexual assault?
I think you've given me this answer before, and it was a lot higher than I thought it was. I thought it was like 12, but I think you're going to say it's like 30 something. Or
let's look it up. Just bear with me. Let's look it up.
All right.
Oh, thank you, Noble Blend. You're correct. As of July 2025, 26 women have publicly accused Donald Trump of sexual misconduct, ranging from groping, unwanted kissing, to rape and sexual assault. Allegations span 4 decades. They started in the 70s, of course, which Donald Trump on a Howard Stern show in 1996 said he can't believe he didn't get a sexually transmitted disease due to the way he is carried on. Several incidents occurred at Trump-owned properties, including Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, and during events like Miss USA and Miss Teen USA pageants. Donald Trump has denied all the allegations, often attacking the credibility of the accusers and his victims and people that reported on it. Notable accusers in cases: E. Jean Carroll accused Trump of rape at the Bergdorf Goodman dressing room in the mid-1990s. He was found guilty and liable for sexual abuse and defamation, awarding E. Jean Carroll $88 million. He still hasn't paid, by the way. Jessica Leeds claimed Trump groped her on a flight in the late 80s. That was later found to be correct. Natasha Stoyanov, People magazine journalist, said Trump forcibly kissed her and groped her in 2025. Summer Zervos, a former president apprentice contestant, accused Trump of groping and kissing her without consent in 2007. At least 2 Miss Teen USA contestants filed a claim that Trump walked in and tried to grope them while they were undressing. Infamous Access Hollywood tape, which Trump said he liked to grab women, quote, by the pussy. You can do anything you want. You and you're famous. Grab and kiss them. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Some lawsuits have been dropped. Others were settled privately. The total number of accusers may be higher than 26, as some have remained anonymous, and non-disclosure agreements have been signed with others. So that number is thought to be closer to 40 to 45. So why am I telling you this?
Yeah.
Why am I telling you this? Great question. Because Donald Trump's a rapist. Because Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Because Donald Trump he's using the Department of Justice. He's using the DOJ. He is using the FBI. He is using the CIA, loyalists that he has installed in there, part of Project 2025, to wash history, to convince you that he is not the sexual assaulting rapist, the sexually abusing rapist, probably with minors, according to what we know, because he is in the Epstein files. He is a sexual deviant. He carried on like one for 40 years. This is who he is. This is what he is. Maybe 50 years. Guy's almost fucking 80. You think this? Do you think every single one of these women is lying, just trying to get money out of him? You think every single one of these women
is a womanizer? Clearly, is a rapist. There's no doubt in my mind that these people are telling the truth.
So that sexual assault rape CV that he has, that disgusting history of treating women like objects. There are several fucking lawsuits out there, including one I saw today from late in the 90s, where a woman sued Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein for sexually assaulting her at the same time.
That's a very difficult one to read.
Very fucking real. That nobody wants to talk about. If I'm mainstream media, I'm not just going after Trump for the Epstein files. I'm bringing his entire history and I'm laying it out day after day after day. And if I'm the Democratic Party, I'm taking that information and I'm feeding it to my friends on the other side of the aisle, especially the ones that say they want to stop sexual assault and human trafficking, and they want information about the Epstein files. I am building a storybook, a multimedia storybook, and I am feeding that into the ecosystem and into the ether until someone finally says, wait a second, maybe Donald Trump's in the Epstein files, and maybe it's time for us to put pressure on him. Because Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Donald Trump is a deviant. Donald Trump is a morally bankrupt, sexually assaulting, rapist, felon, con man. And Donald Trump needs to be held accountable for it. And if the levee breaks, which is why you see the panic, which is why White House aides are like, oh my God, not only is he cognitively collapsing, he's totally fucking guilty. And if Elon Musk gets this stuff out there, which apparently he has, it was Lev's Substack Live last night was phenomenal. He's like, I know Elon's got the goods on him. My sources know it. I know it. Trump is panicking. And you want to fucking put some serious pressure on this man and the regime for America, for democracy, for humanity. This is how you do it. You take his wholesale history, what's going on now, and you force the issue because he is cracking right now.
You know, MAGA believes that Donald Trump is the savior of all these children that have been supposedly raped by Democrats. That's still the underlying belief from QAnon for a lot of people in MAGA, that his election was going to mean these kids were going to be saved, that this whole cabal of Democrats, Pizzagate, pedophiles was going to be finally thrown into prison and justice was going to come to all these children. But as it turns out, they were played, and they were played in such a big way because Donald Trump is, in fact, in the Epstein files and is, in fact, part of this, not Democrat, but part of this group of people who are at least womanizing and in many cases, pedophiles. And they're not doing it for the reasons Democrats were blamed for doing it, but they're certainly doing it. There's enough evidence. I mean, you mentioned Trump's number of times that he's been accused of rape. Well, almost the same as Jeffrey Epstein, the number of times he was accused of rape. And this was maybe their culture, maybe just how they were rolling, or maybe this was a real intelligence operation that was doing exactly what my sources told me they were doing, blackmailing officials in America by putting them into different compromising situations. But in Donald Trump's case, he's not a victim of this extortion. He's actually part of the club doing the extortion. That's my understanding of the whole relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Trump, that they are partners in all of this, that they are, in fact, the coordinators of all of this. Trump has a penchant for blackmail himself, for certainly leaking information, for telling people bad things about other people, for having his page 6 leaks. This is sort of how Trump does business. He's in the casino
He's in the
business.
leverage business.
Yeah,
Right, dude. David Pecker and him were best friends as well. They would catch Berry stories. Yeah,
this is how they do this. This is how they do it.
And he learned it all from Roy Cohn. If you watch the movie The Apprentice, it's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden Donald Trump gets let into Roy Cohn's world. He's like, how are you so powerful? How do you have this much leverage over people? How do you do this? He goes, come into this room. He brings him into this room full of surveillance, full of like wiretaps and different things. Trump is the leverage king. That is how he got to where he got. It's not because he's a fucking genius. It's not because he's a billionaire. It's not because he's a good businessman. It's not because he's smart or bright or a political genius. He has so much dirt on everybody else. And now all the dirt that he has on everybody else is starting to fold over with all the dirt everybody has on him. And it's central to this Epstein file. And when that levee breaks, and I do believe it will, America, this is my prediction. I do believe this is something that is going to tip the scales because everybody can get behind it. The QAnon, the reason why QAnon was so successful is their main mission was to break up, elite celebrity pedophile rings. Right? This is their whole thing. And the conspiracies around him. And that's how Mike Flynn arranged it. He's like, everybody can get behind protecting children, not trafficking human beings, not trafficking children. And then what they would do would say, part of this pedophile ring is like Oprah Winfrey, effectively Democratic celebrities, Democratic politicians. Some of the names that they came up with, like Tom Hanks. I'm like, Tom Hanks. And it is all an operation. And it was meant to create as much space, vilify Democrats as pedophiles. Because that's what the last 10 years of political infighting and influencing has been all about. If you don't like MAGA, then, you must support pedophiles. Because they're trying to break up a pedophile ring. When meanwhile, the guy that is in charge of MAGA is a pedophile. And he's in the Epstein files. And he's got a 50-year history of being a sexual, disgusting individual. So here we are sitting here talking about the projection. Well, this is a perfect example of it.
And in fact, the reason why there are so many Democrats associated with Jeffrey Epstein, and so many Democrats went down to the island, and so many Democrats were on the plane, is precisely because they were the targets of his blackmail. Epstein, as I was told, role in America was to make sure that the Clinton administration did not land up supporting the Palestinian initiative to have peace with Israel. And as part of that, he was pretty successful, actually, at limiting Clinton's success there, and also to some extent maybe even set up Clinton's foundation, which some people allege. But my point is really the Democrats are so featured in Epstein's flight logs and his visitors to the island precisely because that's the people they were targeting. They were targeting these people for blackmail purposes. Now, I'm not saying everyone who went down there committed anything, did anything with anybody, but having them down there was an opportunity to get that blackmail on them. Excuse me.
Yeah, and like Supreme Court Justice John Roberts was there once.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton has been there. There's been a time. I mean, as part of the discussions that we have are, when we talk about Epstein, when you kind of zoom out, espionage is meant to, impugn everybody. It's meant to get leverage on as many people as you can, not to prove them out as pedophiles, but to suggest that they were in situations where maybe you could point to the fact that they might be a pedophile. They might have been honeypotted. They might be unsavory, right? And that's the entire point of espionage. Whereas, I think that certain people were smart enough to go, oh, okay. I'm sure Epstein had some legitimate parties on his island where he was entertaining.
Parties,
but
not all of them.
It was used for a completely other purpose as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. The difference is that anybody associated or anybody who's met. There's a picture of Mark Carney, who's got zero warts. Guy's got an impeccable reputation, zero scandal around him. He's the Prime Minister of Canada. He's an absolute wagon. He's leading us through the dark. I mean, I hate liberals and I hate conservatives. I really like Mark Carney, people of character. There's a picture of Mark Carney standing 10 feet away from Ghislaine Maxwell like 15 years ago in England.
Yeah.
And prior to the election,
I remember this, yeah.
MAGA, Maple MAGA, Russia, all these major influencers, Jack Posobiec, are like, oh, there's Mark Carney with Ghislaine Maxwell. He's a pedophile. It has been this incredible tool.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ghislaine. I don't know how to say it.
I know because I screwed up in the series when I first did it, and I was like, that name bugged me.
I just like that you laughed because I know why you laughed. But anyway, Ghislaine Maxwell. Yes. I didn't even mean it like that. But Ghislaine Maxwell is just has to be in the vicinity of somebody, and someone takes a picture, and everybody's like, oh, that's a pedophile. That we can't trust him.
As with Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell was very, very close to the royal family growing up. I mean, they were family friends of the royals. And the reason she knows Andrew was because they were friends and they grew up nearby. And the reason why she was spotted just before her arrest and in a garden party at the Buckingham Palace is because she's still friends with the royal family. And Robert Maxwell, who was a media mogul in the UK, was also close to Queen Elizabeth. So that's an interesting part of this history. It's an often ignored part of this history, but it is an important part of this history. But getting a picture with Ghislaine Maxwell at any party was a pretty common thing, both in New York, and she was a socialite. That was,
and it was also a tactic, right? It was also a strategy. Yes.
So there's lots of photos of Ghislaine with lots of people. Doesn't mean that they're associated. And there's lots of people who are Democrats who maybe even went down to the island. Does not mean that they were doing anything wrong or doing pedophilic acts or abusing women or doing anything like that while they were down there. They might have just gone for an island down to a very famous dude's private island. I mean, that's sort of, a lot of it is harmless, probably. Some of it might be real, but to the extent that Donald Trump is involved with Jeffrey Epstein, that is significant. This is not just I'm going down for a weekend at a private island. This is a
30-year relationship,
thing where they've got business entanglements, where they kept going to events together. They kept holding these private parties together. They were competing for girls at different events. I mean, they have the same financial backers, which, as I pointed out, is kind of unique considering both of them were, not exactly your kind of people you'd want as bank clients, but Deutsche Bank chose to give both of them money. I mean, at exactly the same time between 2013 and 2016 and 2018. These are not times where, either of them were particularly good targets for giving them money. And Epstein was accused and found guilty of being abusing girls. So, there's a lot here.
And for 20 years, Jeff Epstein lived a mile and a half away from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago. And for 20 years, Ghislaine Maxwell would recruit women at Mar-a-Lago. Yes. It is proven women, and I don't mean just women. I mean young girls, minors. Virginia Giuffre.
Giuffre is a perfect example of that. She's dead. She died a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which still a lot of questions around that. But this is not a finished story, as you point out. There is a lot more to come out. And tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Friday night, 9 p.m. We'll do 6 years to the day and the hour since we first aired the Secret Life of Jeffrey Epstein. I'll re-air an edited version of the first 2 episodes, maybe even more, and add some new information that has never been revealed before on that. But now the number one story on the show, because we have to do it, and it's a big story. I find the story traumatizing, and I'm sure it is for the person involved. This is a Montreal businesswoman, Paula Callejas. I'm not sure I'm saying her name correctly.
Yes, you are.
Detained by ICE for months after a minor domestic dispute in Florida. Despite being a legal visitor with a business and pending visa, at least 55 Canadians are currently in ICE custody at Trump's 3,000 arrests per day quota, sweep up legal visitors alongside targeted individuals. But here's a Canadian citizen who's now, for what seems like a pretty minor skirmish domestically, has landed up in this Arizona detention center for ICE. This is your story on deanblundell.substack.com.
Yeah, please go and read it. Specifically, you're a Canadian and you're considering going to the United States of America, or if you're Canadian and you have business interests in the United States of America. It's an interesting story. And the reason why I found it interesting is because not just that there's a Canadian involved, but the nature of the crime. Paula Kaleos is her name. She's a swimwear entrepreneur. She's got multiple properties in the United States of America. She, for the past few years, is legal resident in the United States of America, has been building her business. A couple of months ago, Paula and her boyfriend get into an argument. They both go at each other. She calls the police. The police show up. They book them both with misdemeanors. But they take her to jail. Why? Because she's not from the United States of America. She is not American. And they put her in a detention center. She has been in several undisclosed, unnamed, without her family knowing. She's a Montreal woman. Several detention centers, and nobody can find her. The United States government is not giving the family information. It is not sharing information with Canadian authorities or Canadian officials. And to make matters worse, Canadian officials are not talking about this. They're not talking about any of the 57, not 55, we now have 57, Canadians in ICE detention centers, legal or illegally. The woman's crime was getting in a fight with her boyfriend and not being American. That was her crime. He got booked for a misdemeanor domestic. She got booked for misdemeanor domestic. The next day, she was disappeared into a detention facility. This is 2.5 months ago, I believe. And no one's heard from her since. She's had one phone call with her parents. Her parents are apoplectic. And the government of Canada, seemingly, I mean, they might be doing stuff behind the scenes I haven't heard, are doing nothing. Nothing.
Well,
We're
so
not
difficult in these
talking about this
situations.
story. There's one news outlet that's covering this story. Canadians in mainstream media in Canada, specifically MAGA-funded media like the National Post, not a fucking word about Canadians in detention centers. And it dawned on me yesterday when I was reading this story and I put it out. Please go and read it, specifically if you're Canadian, because warning, don't go to the United States. And if you're in the United States, fucking leave. Because if you get caught doing something by the wrong guy or wrong girl at the wrong time, they have every right, according to Donald Trump's new policies and this big, beautiful bill and the executive power that he's been robed with by the Supreme Court, to do anything they want to you. Reciprocal agreements don't matter anymore. The United States is a police state. And if you get caught doing something wrong, like this Canadian woman, you're fucked.
Mhm.
And here's another warning to the government of Canada. If you don't start doing something for the Canadians, if you don't publicly start saying, we need to get our people home, you are going to lose us as well. I'm a big Mark Carney guy. I really am. And I know he does not conduct negotiations in public. And I would hope that this government is doing something behind the scenes to bring some of our Canadian citizens home. But can you imagine? I was stranded in Spain for 2 days once. 2 days. I panicked. I'm like, how the fuck do I get? I don't like, what do I do? I don't know where I am. Years and years and years ago. Can you imagine that? But in an ICE detention facility,
Oh my gosh,
on a
it'd be
concrete
horrific.
floor with no family, no friends, no ability to communicate with anybody, no food really to speak of, no water, a bathroom that you share with 50 other people who might be hardened criminals.
I mean,
Like, I mean, it
she's
is
spending time, 6
fucked.
people in a cell. I mean, it's like, Americans need to understand that what Donald Trump is doing to them is isolating them from the world. He is turning America into Russia during the Cold War. He wants every outsider out. He wants you disconnected from the reality of the world. He wants you disconnected from opinions from around the world. He wants America to be a closed off zone that is his domain, that is a secured, militarized zone that he controls fully and totally. And whether he's doing it for Vladimir Putin or doing it for himself doesn't really matter. This is what he's doing. That's why they're spending $170 billion on expanding ICE. That's why they're spending all that money to build 100,000 bed facilities around America to house people that they view as a threat, to view people as outsiders, and any excuse that they can to throw someone who's not one of them into one of those detention centers, they're incentivizing people with huge signing bonuses, huge bonuses if they meet their quotas. This is where we're at, America. Donald Trump is not helping you with your immigration problems. Donald Trump is isolating you. He's putting you into a prison where you are the only people inside that prison. And some people who sort of under their breath say, "Oh well, I never liked the migration problem. I didn't like all these undocumented workers coming here." Those people are sort of signaling, "Well, we'll suffer through some of this isolationism because hopefully he'll take care of that little border problem." Well, it doesn't work like that. This isn't a border problem he's fixing. He is imprisoning Americans. He's imprisoning them through their from
he's not
having free
doing
thought.
any of this to keep people out. He's doing this to keep you in.
Exactly. To keep your thoughts in, to keep your protests under control, to make sure that you are kept in fear, that you're concerned about your neighbors who might be, telling on you or squealing on you to the authorities. He is doing everything he can to create a state that is so police run and so scared and so secretive that everyone inside of it is going to be in a prison. And that is what he's doing with all these facilities and what's happening with these Canadians. And I agree with you, Dean. I mean, there comes a point where the Canadian government should be telling Canadians that they need to leave. And if they're not going to leave, that they're going to come.
We've got travel warnings. There's like 24 countries now that have extreme travel warnings. Don't go to the United States. But to your point, that's really the next step. It's get the fuck out of the United States.
Yeah, we can't help you. We're not in a position to really help you, and we really need you to do your best here to get out. So that's what I think is the next step for Canada, and I think it's vital that this happens sooner rather than later. But Americans need to stop this tacit support, because I see it in the polls all the time, supporting Trump's immigration policies. There's nothing to support there. It's not working for that reason. It's working to destroy your freedoms. It's working to imprison you, and it's working to suppress your political and freedom and your rights.
Yeah, well said. And listen, before we get to the end of the Substack, you mentioned something in there where you were talking about keeping you in, keeping you kettled, keeping you away from information. None of this stuff is in the news. None of this stuff is being run by MSM. It's just how can we keep up with the Trump blowhorn? How can we keep up and continue to monetize this insanely awesome content? Trump is clickbait. He is walking human clickbait in a diaper and a catheter. And so it's never been more important and I say this quite a bit, but I do mean this. I don't care if you pay for a subscription. I don't care if you're a free subscriber. To follow people that will tell you the story. I say this from time to time as well. We're in Canada. Zev covers the United States, does deep dives. I do some breaking stuff and some commentary on culture when it comes to this kind of stuff to kind of keep you informed. But that's the purpose, is to get a straight pipe into the United States, is to keep Canadians informed of what's going on in the United States and to warn them about the coming disaster and to stay away from it, but also to tell people in America, here's what's happening. Here's what's going on in your world. This is what is happening to you. This is the end result. And to take action, but to take action by believing in the information that you're getting. Again, always fact check us. But a really great way to enlighten people in your neck of the woods is to gift subscriptions to people that you follow, that you trust, that have the ability to be able to share this information with you unfettered, free, courageously. I'm in Canada, so it doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to the United States until that dotard's out of office. And hopefully America can get back his sea legs. Steve Schmidt put out a great piece the other day. He basically said, hey, America, we'll get you back in 20 years. I hope that is not the case. I really, really do. But it has never been more important to stay close to people that are telling you the truth, that are disseminating the truth in a way that you can easily understand, in a way that's responsible, in a way that you can fact check it yourself and feel really good about it. As always fact check us. But more importantly, continue to fight the good fight. Be positive, because you're starting to see those cracks. You're starting to see the beginning of the end. You're starting to see Donald Trump get on the hot foot and go, and that hasn't happened before. You're starting to see loyalists go, fuck you. You're starting to see people in his own orbit say, wait a second, you lied to us. This hasn't happened before. Public dissent within MAGA isn't a thing, but you're starting to see that public dissent. Push. Continue to stay close to people that you trust and try to keep your head on a swivel, America. Canadians love you. We love you. We know the difference. I say that all the time as well. We know this is not you. We know this is not your soul. and we're on Team America, but just not on that guy's Team America.
Excellently said. And everyone should subscribe to deanblundell.substack.com for that exact reason. Many of the stories in today's show are on there and in there, and it's always a great resource. So everyone check it out, deanblundell.substack.com. And also my Substack at narrative.org, narrativ.org, and all the other great people that Dean mentioned. It's really important that you find these voices, support them, and any other independent voices you find out there. It's really important. That is the FiveStack for today. And we shall see you again tomorrow. Have a great day, Dean, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.